Multiple Federal Reserve chairs and economic officials have signed a letter condemning the investigation into Jerome Powell, calling it an unprecedented attempt to undermine the independence of the Fed. Jason Furman is one of the officials who signed the letter and joins us now. He chaired the Council of Economic Advisors under President Obama. We're also joined by CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time and expertise. Jason, I want to start with you because you signed that letter. Can you outline for us specifically your concerns with news of this probe?
Yeah, this probe is entirely a pretext. It's because Jay Powell did not do with interest rates what Donald Trump wanted him to do with interest rates. This type of pretext is what you see in countries like Argentina and Turkey. It has no place in the United States. And if it is allowed to succeed, and by the way, I do not think it will be allowed to succeed, the consequences would be quite bad for the economy.
Jessica, to that point, can you break down exactly what the Justice Department is apparently looking at here? And why should Americans care about this specifically?
Maybe I could take the second part first, which is because we care about the independence of the Fed, and maybe more broadly, we care about the independence of certain officials in government who Congress has said basically they enjoy a certain level of protection, that we want some space between, for instance, the person who sets monetary policy and whoever is sitting in the Oval Office. I kind of paused for a minute on the first part of your question because I think the answer is we don't know exactly. Reporting indicates that the probe, and we should be clear that this is just an investigation. This is the very beginning of a hypothetical criminal case, that the probe is centering on construction of government programs and specifically testimony that Powell gave to the banking committee. And I think we should be very clear that at this point, investigation is very different from presenting evidence to a grand jury to ask them there's probable cause that there's a specific federal criminal statute at issue. So at this point, I think that's what we know about the allegations, and that's what we know about why we want to protect people like Powell. And again, it's not from President Trump. It's the ideas from anybody who is the chief executive.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction and clarification there, Jessica. Jason, I want to play for you the response from the current director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett. He discussed this today. I want to play a little bit of that sound and get your thoughts on the other side.
In the fullness of time, we'll find out whether it looks like a pretext. But right now, we've got a building that's got like dramatic cost overruns and plans for the buildings that look inconsistent with the testimony. But I'm not a Justice Department person. I hope everything turns out okay.
Now, Jason, he was being asked the question that you were addressing earlier, which is that this is potentially a pretext to get lower interest rates. But I'm curious what you make of Hassett's comments there, because Hassett himself is reportedly under consideration to be the next Fed chair.
Yeah. First of all, it's sad to me to just see anyone who's an economist who's worked at the Fed treat this as any possibility of being serious. It really isn't. People who know Jay Powell, members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, have stated very clearly today what they think, which is that this is all a pretext. In terms of Kevin Hassett himself, the one big question about him will be, if he was nominated to the Fed, would he act independently? And there's actually going to be much, much more scrutiny of that question today than there would have been a week ago. You have Republican senators saying, in fact, they're not even going to confirm someone as Fed chair as long as any of this investigation and lawfare is hanging over the heads of the independence of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, notably, especially from Republican Senator Tom Tillis, saying that he'll hold up potential nominees going forward over this until this is resolved. Jessica, we were talking earlier about how this isn't the first time the Justice Department has gone after people. I mean, James Comey, Letitia James, go down the line. Are there any similarities here? And do you see this case playing out the way that those did?
So I'll again take the second part first, which is to say we have no idea how this would play out. Again, there are those who are critics of the president are saying that the probe is the point, that the point is to chill somebody who's in Powell's position who disagrees with the president, and to say that you could be subject to a criminal probe. At this point, we are so early in the process. We don't know if a grand jury will ever be impaneled. We don't know if evidence will be presented to a grand jury. And therefore, we have no idea what an indictment would look like. In terms of the similarities, I think the question probably is the answer, in the sense that when we think about Letitia James, when we think about James Comey, when we think about Powell, we're thinking about people with whom the president has had very public disagreements. We should note that when it comes to Letitia James and James Comey, there was a similarity there, that there were career prosecutors who didn't want to bring those cases. Here, we don't know if a case will be brought at all.
Yeah, lots of questions still remain. Early days, but stunning nonetheless. Jessica, Jason, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.